We're up and running and all set for the qualifying action at the Korean Grand Prix.
(1991). F1 sets foot outside Europe just 6 times. 20 years later, that number's doubled, including new Asian territories. Malaysia in 1999, China in 2004, and in 2010, Korea. Home of the world's largest shipbuilders, the most advanced IT infrastructure, the population with the highest IQ on the planet. And last year, also the home of chaos.
It's the worst condition I ever drove a car.
And the champagne from Fernando Alonso wasn't the only shower here last year. And after all that fun and games, you can imagine the relief of everybody involved in Formula One when this morning we opened up our curtains, we looked out of the window to see not exactly blue sky, but at least no rain. However, we have just had word that there could be rain coming in before long. Now, last weekend, you were rewarded for your early start with Sebastian Vettel wrapping up the Drivers' Championship. Well, now, 500 miles away, 7 days later, just across the Tsushima Straits, Formula One has to come up with new reasons to make it worth you getting out of bed first thing in the morning. And I know it is very early indeed for a Saturday, but as you can hear, already on-track action here in Korea. Sadly, no Eddie Jordan with us this weekend, and those shirts, of course, help to wake you up at this kind of hour. But David Coulthard is with us, and I hear that you've been practicing your karaoke skills for the last 7 days. Is that part of you celebrating Sebastian's success, right?
Well, I think it's part of being in Japan. They took away the famous log cabin in Suzuka, so no one was able to practice during the weekend. So in Tokyo, in the short break we had between now and Korea, when we were doing some karaoke.
OK, well, here we are, back in Korea, back in South Korea, a long way south from Seoul. It's a strange place, actually. We make a big effort to come here, and last year we weren't rewarded with a stunning race. We were rewarded with one of the strangest weekends of the year. Without too much rain, the guys really struggled. The visibility was difficult, wasn't it?
Yeah, this actually was one of the longest Grand Prix in total distance up until the Canadian Grand Prix of this year. And you can see here Mark Webber spun out early in the race, collecting Nico Rosberg just at that last section there, turn 17 before entering the straight. And the aftermath of that, it was just such difficult conditions for the drivers. This was a new surface, a lot of sort of oil coming out of the tarmac, visibility incredibly difficult. You see a Toro Rosso T-boning the Virgin there. And this was Petrov, quite a sizable accident here just through that last corner before we start the start-finish straight. And we've seen similar sort of incidents through Friday practice here. This track does not offer a lot of grip. And one of the big difficulties they had last year, of course, as well, was with humidity. The spray was hanging in the air, so visibility was very poor. OK, now behind us is the new world champion. They're gearing up his car to go out and try and get yet another pole position. But it was actually here last year that he failed to finish a race. That was the last time he retired from a Grand Prix. Even in modern Formula One, how impressive is it? 12 months between retirements. Well, it was a very rare failure of the Renault engine that we saw there. It's spurting out engine parts and what have you, but I think it's just a sign of the modern Formula One. They brought in this new rule where you've only allowed a certain amount of engines, 8 engines for the season, in 2009, and since then all of the teams have had to learn how to really make these cars reliable. It is remarkable, actually, that the first team to have cottoned onto that was Ferrari during the dominant years of Michael Schumacher. They had an amazing run of reliability, whilst other teams were still regularly losing 1 engine a season, or gearboxes were going during the years. So I think that although, you know, back in, I guess, late 80s, early 90s, if you finished a Grand Prix, pretty much you would pick up a point. That's gone now. Regularly, we're seeing full amount of cars finishing the Grand Prix.
OK, well, Red Bull have certainly got to grips with their reliability, but even now the drivers and the teams are struggling to get to grips with this place. It's the newest circuit to grace Formula One. However, if you take a look at the calendar, you can see that that is only a boast that this place can boast for the next couple of weeks, because we are heading off to India in 2 weeks' time. Fresh from celebrating Diwali, Formula One will be lighting up Delhi, and then it's just 2 more races. And once again, David, the season's over. Your life just disappears before you when you work in Formula One.
It's an incredibly busy year. You know, the amount of air miles people clock up doing this job, very impressive. We're a little bit fortunate in that we don't have that much to do between the races, but for the mechanics and engineers, they have to prepare the cars in between these races. So it's an amazing season. That's very pretty.
Look at that. You travel the world and you get to see some amazing sights. However, the sights yesterday weren't quite so beautiful as that, particularly for the teams and the drivers. Once again, it was wet, and once again, everybody learned that around here, if it is wet, it really is a very, very difficult place to keep your car on the track. What did you make of yesterday's slipping and sliding antics?
Well, I was watching, this was Nico Rosberg T-boning Alguersuari in the Toro Rosso. It was a rather unusual situation. Michael Schumacher making a rare mistake there, aquaplaning on the entry to the pit lane. And then we have Felipe Massa doing it's not really even a proper spin, is it? If you're going to do it, you will do it properly. There you go, Karun Shantok in the Lotus, the reserve driver, doing a proper spin. And a rare spin there from Fernando Alonso.
It was catching out the best. It does seem to be a difficult place for drivers to gauge the amount of grip on the circuits.
Again, this track surface, it was a brand new track last year. There's been, I think, 1 truck race and sort of run what you brung event since the Grand Prix. And that was an incredibly close moment we saw there from Sebastian Vettel nearly going into the back of, I think it was one of the Virgins. But this track just isn't getting used. You know, they've built this amazing facility. We were told there would be a sort of street section that would grow, there'd be apartment blocks, there would be life around this racetrack. But we haven't seen that yet, and that's meant that the racetrack is even more green than a new track would be.
Sure. Eventually, to our left-hand side, as we turn and look at that bridge, there should be huge skyscrapers and all kinds of things down there, but they haven't managed to work on that just yet. But they have managed to work on building a circuit, and it's a circuit that doesn't seem to be too unforgiving. If you make a mistake, you can slip off and you can get yourself back on. We can have a look at that kind of evidence here. How do you feel about these new circuits that almost reward you for pushing it?
Well, this is something that Martin and I have discussed in commentary, and in the old days, of course, that would have been gravel traps. So you made a mistake, you'd pretty much get beached and you'd be out of the event. So there's no question these modern tracks allow the drivers to take more of a risk. If this was Monte Carlo, they wouldn't take that sort of risk in the braking area because that would then be out of them. They would then be out of the practice session. So it's inevitable that drivers are all about pushing the limits, and when you build tracks that have huge runoffs, they'll use them.
So there you go, you've seen plenty of action already, all of that action so far in the wet. However, it isn't raining, we may well have a dry qualifying session, and we'll see how these guys get on in the dry. But even this morning in the final practice session, there was still a lot of slips under braking, lots of issues for the drivers, but we'll talk about that with David and a number of team principals before the end of our build-up to qualifying. But what about just last weekend, 7 days ago? We had a podium of world champions, we had an incredible Grand Prix, and remarkably, you'll like this one, more changes for the lead at any other time apart from the Italian Grand Prix 40 years before. It was a stunning race last time out.
Vettel having to cover very early on against Jenson Button. Button's half on the grass. Hamilton goes down the outside, sweeps through into second place. Button had to lift the throttle as Vettel ruthlessly put him onto the grass.
He's got to get a penalty for that, hasn't he?
Lewis really slow into 130R.
Look how much he's backed out of it.
Puncture, guys, in the right rear tyre.
Losing the rear tyre.
Vettel then pitched. The leader then is Jenson Button, who felt he'd been hard done by the stewards. Thought it's not worth a penalty for Vettel. Button away then. Look at that. Button is ahead of Vettel. It's Felipe Massa and Lewis Hamilton.
When they've touched, and Massa's obviously lost a bit of his front wing.
safety car comes out with the debris on the track.
Doesn't take one brave marshal, it takes 3.
Jensen backing the pack up there. He's gone, and the rest follow. Lewis Hamilton against Felipe Massa down into turn 1. Easily done.
Alonso's got Vettel.
Jensen Button brilliantly wins the Japanese Grand Prix. Close behind him is Fernando Alonso. Absolutely sensational race. The new world champion, Sebastian Vettel.
What a Grand Prix, hey? So Jensen won the race, Sebastian Vettel won the title, yet still the man who got most of the attention during the Grand Prix weekend is the man who's walking towards me right now, Kamui Kobayashi. We'll have a quick word with Kamui, but first, this is how that result affected the World Championship, and we'll start with the Drivers' Championship, and you can see there, Sebastian Vettel is now the Formula One World Champion. The 114-point gap to Jensen Button can no longer be bridged, so now it's Jensen versus Fernando versus Mark versus Lewis for second in the Drivers' Championship. And as far as the Constructors' battle is concerned, well, it now means it's 130 points between Red Bull and McLaren. McLaren need to outscore Red Bull by 2 points this weekend to keep the title battle alive. But now let's speak to Kamui Kobayashi ahead of qualifying. So, Kamui, that race was incredible for many reasons. I think mainly the atmosphere that you helped to generate. What are your memories of last weekend?
Well, I mean, it was at the fast ball. I mean, it's great fun, so many spectators, very exciting, you know. It was a great moment, and I just confirmed that, I mean, so many Japanese motorsport fans. It's really wanted Formula One.
And there was a real sense that after a difficult year for Japan, this was a chance for everybody to enjoy you being there, to enjoy Formula One, and just to help put a smile back on people's faces.
Yeah, I mean, that was really nice. I mean, I was like, you know, difficult to explain, but it's always nice to see the smile from young girl, and you know, I think before starting, I feel really it was great things, you know, and if I want repeat again next year, I want to do again.
Brilliant. Well, it was a great weekend. That choir were impressive as well. But let's turn our attention back to you. No points in the last 5 Grand Prix weekends. What do you hope for the rest of this season?
Well, I mean, so far I think pace is enough basically, but I mean, problem is just I have no luck. You know, we have still 4 races, and you know, still championship can be different if I work really well. So it's important really try to score point. I mean, this week as well seems I have a chance to score point again, so I need to really push, and yeah, it's important fast point after a long break without point. I think this is my target for this week.
OK, but today is all about qualifying. You didn't make it through to Q3 last year. Where can we realistically see you and Sergio lining up on the grid, do you think, for tomorrow's race?
Well, I mean, it's if we can be in Q3, I mean, it's great. Last year I wasn't, but I mean, this year seems, I mean, track is more stable and the car performed quite well in Q3, so I'm quite confident. But I think it's important more focus into the race to score point, because, you know, even last race I was in Q3, but I couldn't score points. So, I mean, it's important to really have to think about race pace.
OK, well, it's nice to see you. And actually, we can see you for the first time in a Grand Prix, because last weekend, everywhere you went, there was about 100 photographers and various fans chasing after you. So now you can walk around nice and peacefully in the paddock. But good luck today. We'll see how you get on in qualifying. But right now, I think David is with another man who had a pretty eventful Japanese Grand Prix. DC?
Thanks, Jake. So I'm just down here at Mercedes, Nico Rosberg. Great race last time out, obviously starting at the back and coming through to get points.
Yeah, no, Suzuka, I mean, it was a very difficult weekend in general. Really struggled, but then in the end, you know, starting from the back, finishing 10th, at least taking home 1 point, made it a bit worthwhile, so it was all right.
Now, you've had limited running here in Korea with the wet practice on Friday. Does that play to the strengths of Mercedes when the other teams, the top 3 teams in front of your current position, have got limited knowledge of the tyres, or how does that affect you?
I'm not sure. I mean, if anything, maybe it gives us a little bit of a chance, yeah? Because if we can prepare a little bit better than the others in the short time available, then we can have a bit of a chance, and I'm hoping that that's how it's going to work out.
The last 2 years, you've been team leader at Mercedes. You're still 3 points ahead of Michael. He said before this weekend, it doesn't matter whether he finishes in front of you or not in the championship. We both know as racing drivers that's not the case, isn't it? Surely, you know, your goal in the remaining races is to make sure that you maintain your position there.
Yeah, I mean, of course, I would prefer being ahead than behind. But then again, you know, especially my second half of the season has been so up and down now and everything with issues and this and that. And anyways, if, you know, we're not fighting for the championship, so we're back in 7th and 8th. So I think more important is going to be in front next year.
Okay, expectations for qualifying this afternoon?
Well, qualifying, I think it's going to be the usual thing. It's going to be difficult to beat those top 3 teams, unfortunately. So we're in that bit of a gap there between, you know, between the mid-pack and the front group. Well, we'll see. Maybe we'll try and annoy one of them.
All right, wish you luck with that.
Thank you.
Jake.
Thank you, David. And just 45 minutes or so to go until Nico Rosberg can start annoying the teams at the front. He was 10th in final practice. But we've already seen, of course, that last weekend the race belonged to Jenson Button, but the day very much belonged to Sebastian Vettel. It was the day that he created history. It was the day that this throne became the throne of the youngest ever back-to-back Formula One world champion.
It's a sunny day. A lot of fans, everyone excited. I think that's what life is about. And, you know, we had so many fans.
Here we go then, guys. The chance to crown Sebastian Vettel as world champion. He's broken records all throughout his career. Will we see another record today?
The drivers' parade, so many excited people to see. The grandstands were full.
You playing the percentage game, or are you going for glory?
For glory, I think that's what we're here. And that's really, you know, one of the last thoughts that I have before I put my helmet on. You know, life for me and for us, I think all the drivers, doesn't get much better than this.
Let the challenge begin.
When I saw Jenson, I thought, you know, this is going to be fun.
Button's half on the grass.
So I was hungry as I ever have been, and going for victory, throwing the car around and trying everything to get close to the guys again. When I crossed the line, and that's it.
Sebastian, you're the 2011 world champion. Well done.
Thank you so much, every single one. You did it.
This is the Hall of Fame that you are joining. These are the fellow back-to-back Formula One world champions.
I tell you what, I never imagined that I would win the second world championship. I mean, that's really weird, phenomenal. I mean, we set ourselves the target to win the championship. To achieve it by Japan, it's difficult to put in words. Incredible.
And it was a really special moment on the F1 forum to show that to Sebastian, the fellow back-to-back world champions. He was quite moved. You were as well, weren't you?
It's fantastic to get that memory. You see the tears in his eyes. And I felt the emotion as well, because the drivers that have won back-to-back championships are the true greats of this sport. And we've been debating, you know, just how good is Sebastian? Is it that he's just a little bit better than Mark this season in a great car? Does he have all the hallmarks of being someone we'll look back in the future as saying, you know what, he is right up there with the guys that have set the benchmark in Formula One in the history of our sport?
And whilst you were watching that, probably tucked him in bed with a nice cup of tea and maybe some toast or some coffee. The guys here, no such luxury for them. Look, already working hard, already making sure that this car is just as quick this weekend as it was last weekend. And they were telling me, David, they can hardly remember the flight over here. Such were the celebrations after they left Japan. Who can blame them? Because often this is not seen as a team sport, but it really is. And this is the team.
This is a remarkable part of Formula One. Look at all these guys working away. There's no checklists lying out there like pilots before taking off in an aircraft. This is all done from memory. It's like synchronized mechanicking around a racing car, and it's a wonderful thing to see. And what's always amazing to me, you know, 45 minutes before qualifying, that car does not look like it's anywhere near ready to go out and qualify and then race. But of course, once they go into the qualifying session, they're in Parc Fermé. They can't work on the car again. And
is this classic Adrian Newey that you can only just manage to fit one hand in each of the holes where you've got to do quite intricate work, and you can see how tight those working conditions are.
Well, indeed, it's moulded around the arm of Ollie. You can see it just fits his forearm in there, and to work on the other side of the pedals, then actually, Ollie, were you saying something?
Yeah, I have to take the Rolex watch off to get in here. It's horrible.
Well, is that moulded to your specific arm requirements? Because that is very small. How is the wrist?
I think actually Adrian sort of wants a little measurement of this every year, so he can make it a little bit smaller, a little bit smaller. That's sort of the aim, I think.
Listen, don't moan. It means you're the world champions, so it's a good thing. It's a good thing for that car. Niki Lauda came out with what I thought was a fascinating quote. He said, what I love about Sebastian is that what I managed to do at the end of my career with the experience and the level head he's done right at the beginning, and that's what's special about what he's achieved, I think.
Well, and to add to that, you know, another three-time champion, Jackie Stewart, said that to win the second title was more difficult than to win the first, because suddenly you've climbed to the top of the mountain. That drive, that sort of, you know, can I do it? That belief, that, you know, all the motivation that you need to get there. Suddenly, you know, you have to rediscover that over the winter and come back again the following year. And not only has Sebastian come back and done it all again, he's actually added to the level of performance that he had winning his first World Championship.
And just to make you feel even older as you enter your 41st year on the earth, is that the boys who are currently driving, who are having their careers at the moment, are very young. If we look at the youngest ever Formula One World Champions, you can see that the three youngest are currently in the sport: Sebastian, Lewis and Fernando.
Well, no big surprise in that. You know, sport generally, you know, all sports, men and women, are starting at a younger age. They tend to get into their sports at professional level much earlier. And the real question is going to be, how long will they keep going? Now, Michael Schumacher is, 42 years old, and an example of someone who's been doing it for over 20 years, but he started at a much later age. You know, will we still see a Sebastian Vettel or a Fernando Alonso doing this when they're 40? I suspect not, because you only have a certain level of energy to take through any professional career, and it would be remarkable if they were still doing it at that stage.
Could you do it? You've now had 3 years out of Formula One, exactly the same amount of time as Michael had. If you came back, you'd be the same age as he was when he returned. Could you imagine now turning around to Karen and your little boy and saying, Daddy's going back to Formula One?
No, I can't. But I'm entirely comfortable where my level of talent took me in Formula One. The difference between someone like Michael, he won 7 championships. You know, he obviously has an incredible success rate and an incredible belief in his own ability. You know, I don't want to even imagine that I could achieve more than I did in my early career at this age.
Okay, well, I think you're pretty good at your second career as well. You may well be the world champion at this one day. You never know.
Thank you.
Okay, right, well, let's move on then and have a look at the news, because while everybody is talking about Sebastian Vettel, everyone is also talking about somebody else, the most talked about man in Formula One. Here's Ted Kravitz.
Lewis Hamilton has shed a little more light on his current slump in form. Off the podium for the last 5 races, Hamilton explains that his poor performances relative to teammate Jenson Button are down to issues both within himself and how he drives the car.
It's about driving, it's about where you are in your head, it's about a combination of things, and I've just not been doing the job. So it's just self-errors and human errors. You can't do too much about it but learn from them.
So, I mean, people will be asking, you know, what the problems are. I mean, is that something you can shed any light on?
Nope.
Well, that's fine.
There's not really, no, it's just, I can't really explain, there isn't. I'm still trying to figure that out, so I think it would take some time and take a lot to recover from the difficulties we've had this year, but, you know, but I'm still here. I never give up, I still keep pushing, regardless of how many blows that I take.
Hamilton's current unhappy period is in direct contrast to Jenson Button, who's enjoying his best run of form in his McLaren career. Button thinks his win last time out in Japan sets him up for a shot at a second World Championship next year.
Being competitive at the end of a season is very important, especially when there's not a massive regulation change. So for us to fight for a victory, which hopefully we will over the next 4 races, is key really to us coming out the box strong in 2012.
As well as being on top of the world metaphorically, Red Bull have also been on top of the world physically this week, running a show car in a publicity stunt up the highest tarmac road in the world in Ladakh in the Indian Himalayas. But back at sea level, Sebastian Vettel's looking forward to racing without pressure from now until the rest of the season. And while we can expect great racing, Vettel admits McLaren and Ferrari and could win more races than Red Bull from now until the end of November.
I think we will see 4 very, very exciting races, because we'll race maybe a little bit more free than we used to at the end of the last couple of seasons. Surely you won't have that, you know, tension for the championship, but every single race is now a little bit of its own championship, and everyone wants to do well in the end of the season in particular, so it will be tough to win more races from here onwards.
Mark Webber's had the same car as Vettel but hasn't won a race this year, a fact he intends to change, as well as helping Red Bull wrap up the Constructors' Championship tomorrow.
Clearly look to get my best result of the year soon. Obviously quite a few podiums and second places, as you say, but looking for that win, and it shouldn't be too far away.
Now on the same number of titles as Sebastian Vettel, Fernando Alonso finished second last time in Suzuka because Ferrari took advantage of Red Bull's high tyre wear and conservative strategy. But for Alonso, second really is the first of the losers.
we don't want to finish second in any of the things we do, not only in Formula One. I think if we do a race in December for charity or something and we finish second, and we are not very happy. So we want to win, we are competitive people, and in the remaining 4 races we will try our best, even if the championship is finished.
Having denied that his Force India team was for sale last week, Vijay Mallya has this week sold 42% of his Force India team to the Sahara Group, a conglomerate that also sponsors Indian cricket.
Obviously, great news, relatively new to us. I'm sure we'll find more information out, but good investment for the future, good guidance, along with Mr. Mallya. I'm sure they'll take Force India to much greater places.
And finally, F1 welcomes a new test driver this weekend, ex-British F3 champion Jean-Eric Vergne, who's being evaluated for a race seat at Toro Rosso in 2012.
The plan actually for me is just to get some mileage in the car, get some experience, and of course in the view for 2012. But yeah, nothing is planned for next year, just until the end of the year, driving the Friday in the Toro Rosso and getting some experience in the car.
Feel you're ready for F1?
I feel definitely ready, yes.
And you have to feel for Jean-Eric. He got his first chance in a Formula One car at a Formula One weekend, and it poured down yesterday, and we'll be chatting to him live before too long. Now, we've come to South Korea. It's a fascinating country. However, the part of South Korea that we've come to is actually 5 hours on a bus once you fly here. And it has to be said, the atmosphere isn't stunning compared to some races where we have a huge crowd watching what we're doing. This is the crowd we've got for this weekend. Good morning, or good afternoon as it is here, gentlemen. I don't know whether it's because there's no Eddie Jordan, therefore the attraction just isn't there. What do you think?
I think that's probably got nothing to do with it. I think it's just the distance from any major city which is making it difficult. But I wasn't here last year, I was back at McLaren's HQ doing a little report from there. But apparently there was 130,000 people on race day. So I don't know where they shipped them in from, but they're certainly not here today.
Yeah, well, they've said once again that ticket sales for the race have been absolutely stunning. But you also have to point out, and obviously you weren't here to see this last year, that very little has changed, very little has moved on from a year ago. Your first trip here this weekend, first impressions as you arrived at the circuit?
Well, I think if we start with the track, which is the reason we're here, I think it's a great racetrack. The drivers say the challenge out the back, especially in the section from sort of turn 7 until we get to about 14, 15, and we'll look at that obviously during the qualifying show. Really challenging for the guys, but I think in terms of location and the facilities that we're using, I'm hearing stories that the bins hadn't been emptied from when people finished here last year at the Grand Prix. Okay. So yeah, it's fair to say that they're doing the minimum to try and deliver the maximum here.
Not like you to be going through the bins at a race weekend.
I heard it.
Right, okay, okay, very good. Well, what we hear is that most people actually make it down from Seoul to come and watch this race. Maybe they came here last year, sat in the grandstand and went home and said to everyone, that's a funny old sport. They sit on the grid for ages, do a few laps in the rain, then go in. But hopefully this year we'll have a dry race and we can impress South Korea and show them just why Formula One is so fascinating. It's certainly been a fascinating championship battle up until now, dominated by one man. And just because Sebastian Vettel is the world champion, it doesn't mean that it's all over for Red Bull.
Fantastic set, brilliant way to start the year, fantastic. Webber lost a bundle of time out there. Whoa!
Yes! That's what I'm talking about.
Sebastian, you're the 2011 world champion, well done.
So plenty to smile about, but it hasn't been all plain sailing so far for Red Bull. You can see there Sebastian Vettel with 9 wins. Mark Webber yet to pick up a win. He's on 194 points. He's now 16 points behind the man who's sitting second in the championship, Jenson Button. But without as many wins, Mark has to get more points than JB to finish second. However, as far as the constructors' battle is concerned, as we've already mentioned this weekend, as long as McLaren don't outscore Red Bull by 2 points, then Red Bull will have 2 championships to celebrate in 2 weekends. I'm sure Christian will enjoy that very much. And talking of celebrations, I've been chatting to the mechanics who've certainly enjoyed themselves. What did you do to celebrate that victory in the championship?
Well, as a team on Sunday night, we all headed off down to the local Irish bar in Suzuka. Amazing there is one. I mean, but yeah, everybody let their hair down, a bit of karaoke, and a few bleary eyes the following morning. But and then focus quickly switched to this race. But it was a great event. You know, it was good to see Sebastian. You know, enjoying himself. Even Michael Schumacher turned up to wish him well, which was a nice gesture.
Very nice. I'm sure Seb would have appreciated that. We've been watching the guys working away on the cars, commenting on how difficult Adrian's cars look to work on, even though they are very fast. What have you had to say to them, if anything, to keep the motivation up, to remind them that it's not all over, you can't rest on your laurels?
I haven't had to say anything. They know the expectation, they know the target. The target is to retain the drivers, which has been achieved, and to retain the constructors. We're in a great position in the constructors, but there's still a long way to go. The McLarens are quick, as you can see, and we want to finish off the season in the manner that we've competed in it so far. So there's a real determination within the team to close out the constructors and the season in the best possible fashion.
Christian, you've had limited running on dry tyres. There's only a 1 hour session this morning before going into qualifying. How much does that compromise the preparation? And do you think it's something that's the same for everyone? Or do you think that Red Bull or Ferrari or McLaren take more time or less time to find the balance on the tyres?
Well, ultimately, it's the same for everyone, and we weighted our preparation this morning more towards the race. We did a long run on the tyre to get a good look at them, because Pirelli have come here with a very aggressive tyre choice. So that's going to be crucial tomorrow. Other teams, chose not to take that approach. So we'll see. I think tomorrow in the race that could be, stand us in good stead.
And for those people who are already struggling because it's only 5:30 in the morning back in the UK, when you say an aggressive tyre choice, can you explain what Pirelli have done and what you expect that to do to the race on Sunday?
Well, they've turned up with a very soft tyre, so it's a track that puts a lot of energy into the tyre. There's a lot of corners, particularly in the second and third sector. So we're expecting the tyres, the duration of the tyres not to be too long. So, we've even looked at 4 stops, maybe even 5 stop strategy races. So, that's going to be another element, another dimension. So tyre management is going to be crucial.
OK, so if it's stressful on the pit wall, David, with 5 stops, how's that going to be in the commentary box? Your voice is all right, is it?
Well, thankfully here we can actually see the pit lane, so we'll have it covered.
All right, well, it'll be a busy pit lane. There'll be a lot of stops going on in what is a very wide, very busy pit lane. Good luck today. Thank you very much for joining us as you search a record 16 pole positions in one season. That would be very special for Red Bull. And so whilst the new kids on the block are flying at the moment, what about the next garage along, the team who are celebrating 700 Grand Prix this weekend at McLaren? What will they be fighting for the rest of the season?
Brilliant, Jensen.
And thankfully, only being next door, we've made it down to McLaren. Before we speak to Martin Whitmarsh, you can have a look at how things are standing at the moment. Lewis Hamilton, 2 wins for him. Jenson Button now with 3 after picking up that victory in Japan. But second place in the Constructors' Battle and second place in the Drivers' Championship would do very nicely indeed for McLaren. So, Martin, has it been a case of, hold on a minute, everyone, don't forget about us in the last few days? Because we've seen a great drive from Jenson, a great win for the team, but everybody focusing on the next team along who took the championship battle. It's worth reminding everybody just how good that race was for McLaren.
No, it was a great race, but I think, you've got to say Seb has deserved this year's championship. He's driven fantastically. It's been very difficult to beat him. He's had so many poles as well, so it's been a bit monotonous for some of us. But I think, we're here. We've won 5 races this year. There's 4 left. If we could win 9 races this year, that's some consolation. And Jenson did a fantastic job last weekend, and that was quite tense for a whole number of reasons for everyone. But I think here, both our guys feel pretty motivated. We looked in reasonable shape, but people are thinking it's going to be easy for us to be on pole. But I think we know that Sebastian's got no pressure on him. He's driving fantastically well, and he's not going to ease off. So I think we'll see what happens. Hopefully we can get the job done this afternoon. It'd be nice to be on pole for a change. We haven't been there for a while, and obviously even better to go on and win the race easily tomorrow.
Martin, does that mean that you're actually focusing? Yes, I'm behind you. Does that mean that you're focusing more on securing this pole position to break Red Bull's dominance there? Because there is a compromise that all of you teams have to make between going for pure qualifying setup and what you're left with in the race with only 1 DRS zone.
Well, I have to be honest, during the session this morning, we started getting ourselves pumped up about qualifying, and then we said, well, actually, we do want to win this race, and that's what really counts. So, at the end of the day, poles are always nice to have, but as you know, race wins are what we're here to do. So I hope that we're not going to be too compromised. I believe that we could be respectable in qualifying. Hopefully, it would be quite sweet to have a pole. We know just missed it last weekend, and we've missed it a few times this year, just by a few thousandths of a second. That's a little bit painful, but I think all of the teams at this end want to win the race. So we're not going to overly compromise our preparation or our setup just to have a pole position. We want to win this race.
And whilst Jenson Button looks like the most confident and relaxed man in F1 at the moment, despite Sebastian Vettel being the world champion, I know you've had to make big changes to Jenson's car this weekend. Perhaps you could explain what went on there, and then maybe, David, you can tell us how it feels for a driver so close to a Grand Prix weekend to have big car setup changes.
Yeah, I mean, nothing that complicated. The engine is mounted to the back of the chassis. These are very important bolts, if you like. One of those failed last night. We have an engine change, so we couldn't get it out, so we had to change the chassis. Now, that's quite major, as you said, but obviously it didn't look too bad this morning. So I imagine any reservations that Jenson had, I think once he was quicker than Lewis this morning, he felt it wasn't too bad after all.
I remember doing a back-to-back test at Barcelona when I was driving for you, just before you fired me, and
just reminding you of that there.
I've made some terrible mistakes in my life, haven't I?
Indeed.
That wasn't one of them.
Thank you for that. Thankfully the microphone wasn't on you when you said that. And we were never able to achieve exactly the same lap time, even though we put the same nose, the same rear wing on the car. So there are always slight differences between chassis. Why is that in such an exact engineering sport as Formula One?
In truth, I think it has moved on a little bit, David. I think I think over the last 20 years, the evolution of really the preparation of the cars, the engineering that puts them together. So I'd hope, I haven't actually asked Jenson, he didn't feel any difference. I think he was very comfortable with the car, and I think that nowadays we have actually improved a little bit since you were racing. So I don't think the drivers would notice a difference.
OK, Martin, thank you for joining us, and let's hope that one of your drivers can go 9,000ths of a second quicker than you went last time out and maybe snatch that important pole position. But it seems that this pit lane is full of people who make mistakes. Some teams have fired David Coulthard, other teams haven't even employed him. We're now going to wander down to Ferrari, speak to Stefano Domenicali. What have they got left to fight for this season?
Fernando Alonso wins the British Grand Prix.
Massa's long gone.
They've touched, and Massa's obviously lost a bit of his front wing. Massa's through contact there.
Look at that, Alonso very fast. He's absolutely on fire, Fernando Alonso. Alonso is driving the wheels off that Ferrari.
So Red Bull are top of the tree, and then comes McLaren, and at the moment, third place for Ferrari. Fernando Alonso, look at that. He's got a win. Felipe Massa has yet to even pick up a podium, and at the moment, Felipe Massa has less than half the points of his teammates. Right, well, let's grab hold of Stefano Domenicali, then, who's the team principal down here. Stefano, lovely to see you. Thank you very much for popping out and joining us so close to qualifying. Way less than half an hour to go now. So we've just spoken to both Christian Horner and Martin Whitmarsh. Their aim is clear, win the final 4 races of the season. What's the aim in this garage?
I mean, to speak is quite easy, so I could say the same thing, but I think that it will be realistically quite difficult to do that. And starting from today, I would say that for what I've seen up to now, it seems that McLaren seems to be really very strong. Red Bull was hiding a little bit, or sandbagging, as you say in England. We were trying to be in the best position that we can, but it will not be so easy for this race.
I heard that Pat Fry and also your reserve driver Bianchi went back to Maranello for one day and then came all the way back out again. Presumably that wasn't to deliver some parts here. So, what would they be doing heading back there?
Actually, I've been there 2 days, but, you go back because there's not only the race team that has to work, but there is an entire organization that you try to push and try to do the things that you have to follow. And that is on Pat's side to manage the technical side of it. On my side, there are also other stuff to do because I'm part of a group. I'm part of a big company, so there is not only this thing to do.
And I saw your quotes that said your final big upgrade of the season sadly turned out to be a little bit more of a downgrade than you were hoping. How much of a worry at the end of a season when you hope that you've got everything in sync at the factory and you know this car better than you have done all year, that the things you're bringing to make that car quicker are still not quite fitting as you would like?
I mean, to be honest with you, I think that luckily the area of the car that we really didn't understand very well this year will not be there next year. So that's a relief. and so that's really the answer of it.
Okay, Stefano, thank you for joining us, and we'll make our way further down the pit lane. Thank you, and David, we'll go for a walk. And while we do this, and I'll mention this out of earshot of Stefano, because they're so protective of Felipe Massa, and he is a great guy and a very strong driver. Not even a podium, though, this season.
Well, it's remarkable, you know, that he's not had the chance to be up there. But I think it shows a couple of things. One, just how competitive the battle for the podium is. We've already mentioned there's incredible reliability in Formula One. Fernando Alonso is the team leader there. You know, I think that Felipe Massa showed some great form when he was teammates with Michael Schumacher and Kimi Räikkönen, but he's struggled to replicate that form recently, and there's been a number of rumours as to whether he'd actually be seeing out his contract at Ferrari. He's very well liked in the paddock, but this isn't a popularity game, this is a game about delivering, so it'll be interesting to follow that.
Okay, thank you very much for that, Renault. I hope you've still got your driver fitness, because this has to be one of the longest pit lanes in Formula. Huge new grandstand, huge new garage, but despite how new it is, the cars are just as loud as ever. And we walk past Renault there. We're now making our way down to Force India and then to Sauber, because if you think that the battle at the front, the battle for the championship, is dynamic and competitive, trust us, in the midfield, it is just as passionate.
Nick Heidfeld, a podium position. All the rest of them, sensational drive. What a job he's doing for Sauber.
So 3 teams locked in the battle at the moment for 5th place in the championship, and you can see there 32 points between Renault, Force India and Sauber. Sauber are chasing Force India, and Force India now chasing Renault after Renault have struggled for the past few races. And let's have a chat to a man who sadly isn't getting the chance to help Force India drive this car forward, Nico Hülkenberg. Nico, we'll just walk away from the garage slightly because it's very loud and you might struggle to hear us slightly. About a year ago as of now, you were driving in Formula One. I know you're struggling to hear, we'll go further. You really fought hard to pick up that pole position in Brazil towards the end of last year. You impressed everybody in your rookie year, yet no drive this season. How hard has it been sitting and watching and listening to this car all year long without getting the chance to race it?
Well, I only got half of the question, but I think I know what you're after. It's been quite a tough year for me, obviously. The first few races is tough to sit in the garage and just watch the guys race and somehow mentally keep up there and keep the motivation up. But I try to hang in here. The good bit for me is that I get to drive on the Fridays quite often, more than any other third driver, which keeps me going. And the goal is to come back, and I think there's definitely a realistic chance, but still a bit early to say that.
Okay, pop these on, because then you'll definitely hear David Coulthard's question without any problem. And I guarantee you, the moment that you put those on and David starts speaking, they'll turn the engine off, won't they?
Yeah, can you hear me okay? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, you should be hearing a Scottish accent. Nico, it can't be right, can it? You were your pole position sitter, as Jake mentioned, in Brazil last year. You've got to be the most overqualified reserve driver in Formula One. Your manager is Willy Webber, I believe.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Okay, well, at what point did you fire him? Why are you not in a race seat, and where are you looking for next year?
I'm looking for a race seat, definitely. I feel very home and welcome at Force India. I think they're a great team. They've showed that they can pull out of a bad situation, considering where we started the year. They really did a great job turning it around, and I think what I hear from them, they're quite positive, or giving me quite positive feedback, and I'd really like to stay at the team and race for them next year, obviously. But as we could read in the press many times, that VJ wants us to focus on the World Constructors Championship and become 6th. That's the main worry and main concern at the minute for us, and after that we'll discuss about the driver stuff.
If it was your choice, which one would you replace? For you, which one of the 2 drivers of Force India?
That's a cruel question, but the answer is...
I don't care, I just want to drive.
As long as you get a drive. Nico, thank you very much for joining us, and good luck ahead of next season. Thank you. And if it was a bit of a shame, really, just leaving Nico to stand out there and watch those cars, you never really had to do that role, the reserve driver role. How difficult do you think that would be, to be given a little taste, shown what it's like to be on pole position, and then have it all taken away?
Well, in actual fact, in '94, after the tragic events of Imola, then I shared the car with Nigel Mansell. Now, you could argue he was a world champion, he was a legend of the sport, so it wasn't really, he certainly wouldn't have felt that threatened by me. But the bottom line is, I'd go to the Grand Prix that I wasn't competing in and sit in the sidelines and watch and wish I was in the car.
Watch him crash in his first race. How was that?
Well, it's a horrible thing, because I was such a fan of Nigel, and I, so much respect for what he achieved. But the bottom line is, any failure that he had during those races for Williams gave me a better chance of driving the following year. So competitive spirit is such that this is where you get teams within teams, and I think it's something which is one of the most intriguing parts of this sport, because you see the love-ins publicly between the teammates, but the reality is they want to finish in front of each other, whether it's for 5th place in the championship, whether it's in a practice session, and of course, obviously, they want to be on the top spot on the podium, and your success, if you're winning, is a failure of a teammate.
Okay, well, I hope your heart rate is as high as mine after walking. Look at that, it looks about 6 miles from the bridge at the end of that pit lane, but we have made it. We've made it down to the end that every team doesn't want to be in, the slowest end of the pit lane. And the question is, who here can end up 10th in the championship?
Kovalainen doing a great job for Lotus.
Great stuff from Miuzzi. He's in the slower car.
There's a handbrake turn followed by a 3-point turn.
And the question is, who can finish 10th at the moment? Just because of finishes, not because of points, that place belongs to Team Lotus. If you finish 10th in the championship, it gives you extra money and various privileges going ahead to next year. Now, talking of next year, having just spoken to Nico Hülkenberg, we're with another man who would love a drive in Formula One. Thank you very much for joining us, Jean-Éric Vergne. And we're actually inside the garage because at 1:45, just before qualifying starts, we have to be out of the pit lane. Thankfully, we've done that. So while we're here, we can talk about this team, talk about this car. You got a chance to drive a Toro Rosso over a race weekend. It was wet, it was tricky out there. How scary is it with walls very close to the track? The last thing you want to do is start your F1 career by putting the car in the wall.
Yeah, actually I was thinking a little bit about this before starting, but to be honest, once I was on the track, I wasn't really thinking about crashing the car, but just enjoying the time in the car and trying to get some experience. And hopefully it's not going to be wet in Abu Dhabi. So it was really good.
Well, you're busy thinking of looking at the car, weren't you?
Well, I was actually listening to the count, Jake. We're getting a bit tight in time, but very quickly, how well prepared were you for that test? You were in a simulator, presumably, and...
Yeah, I've done a few sessions in the simulator for Korea, and then I get prepared along the season to drive the F1 in terms of physical condition. So I think I can be ready even for a race. So I'm getting ready for this, and hopefully next year I'm going to have to drive this car not only in Friday practice, but hopefully in the races as well.
Okay, there you go. The message from Jean-Éric and also Nico as well. It's crystal clear where you want to drive in Formula One. Good luck chasing that drive. Enjoy your winter, get nice and fit, and it may well happen. What about a man who's already got his chance? Well, Danny Ricciardo is a young Red Bull driver, but just to get a seat in Formula One, he's had to go to the slowest team on the grid, HRT. Good to see you.
Hi, dude.
How's it going, man?
Good, and you?
Yeah, good. I've just been admiring your car, actually. I was thinking to myself, because obviously this year has been a bit of a struggle in terms of raw pace and race pace and things. How are you going to remember this car of yours? Are you going to look back fondly on the car that gave you your Formula One debut, or
Definitely, definitely. I think so. I mean, the first one, hopefully it's the first of many, but it's, I think the first one's always going to be special. It's good, actually.
Now that was accidentally. That was one of our cameras stepping on a bit of your bodywork, but I think it's okay.
Should be okay.
And I think the good news is it was Tonio's car.
Yeah.
So if we don't tell him, you won't, right?
No, anything this side of the garage is fine, and then be a bit more careful over here.
Now, when I walk down the pit lane...
not the shoes.
Oh, no. You don't want the shoes being filmed, do you? He's got a problem with the shoes. Just explain the problem.
It's not a very Australian thing. Jeans and running shoes. Out of style, it gets 0 style points.
Okay, this is perfect. We're outside the Red Bull garage. We've got a Toro Rosso, so perhaps this is the ideal time to talk about the teams that you could end up driving for. I can see you acknowledging people in there. The natural route for you should be into this car, then into that garage. How can you make that happen?
Well, it's the route Sebastian Vettel's done and done very well. That's the ultimate, the real ultimate goal, definitely I think for myself, but any Red Bull Junior that's come through to go through the ranks and then finish off and do the business. The windows are tinted.
We can't
even see inside.
But we can tell everyone at home that they were waving like mad and very excited and
Oh, here we go, here we go.
When you've been used to racing at the very front, because that's what got you noticed by Formula One, what's it like coming into the sport? And if you turn around, Pete, you can see what Daniel sees at the start of a Grand Prix, and that looks like a long way down to pole position.
I mean, you just got to be probably a little bit more careful at the back. You know, there's more chance of getting collected in an accident, so be careful, but at the same time, it's a good opportunity to make up some places.
Don't end up on the back of that this weekend, will you?
No.
You would think, on paper, one of the longest straights in the sport and the DRS zone, surely this is going to make overtaking really simple. And where do you stand on the whole DRS situation?
I've enjoyed it, at least you know, being more on the back end, it gives you more opportunity to move up.
Yeah.
I mean, you're always pushing hard, but maybe you push even harder to try and get that detection point.
Yeah.
Mate, they were, I'd never seen it before, how they get the grass green. They got like a hose and it shoots out like blue-coloured water.
So they're spraying the green onto the grass to make it greener?
Yes.
Don't believe anything you see?
Well, we weren't meant to say that. Don't get that in.
Well, here we are then, round the final corner. And interesting, actually, if we look at that car, he's going into the pit lane there. The pit entry, is it right on the racing line here? Because there was lots of discussions about this last year.
From memory, it looks the same, so we'll see what the drivers say in the briefing tomorrow.
You're in a Formula One driver's briefing. That's what you've dreamt about since you were a 7-year-old karter.
It's pretty cool, but you know, at the same time, now I'm one of them. You can't really have your hero anymore.
Yeah.
You can't be like, oh, it's Schumacher, or oh, it's...
Must have been amazing when you first met DC.
Oh, still got goosebumps, actually. It's big moment, big moment.
Well, it's been wonderful to share a track walk with you. And do you know what? The trainers have looked brilliant.
Yeah.
You don't need to worry about the trainers at all.
All right.
All right, just concentrate on your weekend. Have a good one.
Cheers, mate.
Nice to see you.
Thank you.
He's a very fashionable young man now, from one garage to another one, straight out of Toro Rosso. In a moment, I'm going to be joined by Karun Chandok in the Lotus garage as we gear up for qualifying. But talking about pole positions, remarkably, Sebastian Vettel's record is 27 poles in 77 Grand Prix, exactly the same as the master, Ayrton Senna. How has he done it? With no points available on a Saturday, there's still a lot to be won. Here's Martin Brundle to explain.
The foundation of Sebastian Vettel's World Championship winning season has been his performance on Saturdays in qualifying. His speed and consistency has meant that over half the races he's ever started for Red Bull have been from pole position, a truly impressive record. It's not just this year. The first sign of this ability to be a qualifying king was back in 2008 at Monza, putting the Toro Rosso on pole and going on to win the race.
Wow, the fresh-faced lad from Germany thoroughly and totally deserves that.
So what's his secret? A clear plan and working closely with his engineer Rocky to be on the track at the right time is key. On occasions this year, such as Turkey, Australia and Canada, he's run early, fired in just one sizzling lap, and then watched the others fail to match it.
I've set my time, that's all I'm doing in this session, go beat it.
2 years ago in China, he showed the same uncanny ability by nursing a mechanically ailing Red Bull on just one flying lap to their first ever pole.
Yes, we made it! Pole position!
He's also able to deliver under pressure by being the last car out and putting in the time in the closing seconds.
Vettel crosses the line and takes pole position. He pulled it out of the bag when he needed it.
On the track, time after time in qualifying, we've seen him carrying sensational speed through the apex of corners while getting on the throttle early and very hard. He also manages the car and tyres well as the lap unfolds. He possesses what every champion should have, immense bravery. Flat out here on a damp track in Spa, where the dry line was only marginally wider than the car, and in Suzuka travelling at 190 miles an hour through the 130R corner with the DRS rear wing wide open. He does make mistakes, but these are in free practice as he explores the limits. Crucially, these accidents failed to dent his confidence as he put the car on pole the following day.
The only race this season where he's not been on the front row was at his home Grand Prix in Germany. Perhaps a case of nerves and heavy expectation. But even then, he was third. No such nerves last weekend before his pole lap in Japan as he calmly adjusts his seatbelt while accelerating through 180 miles an hour. That was his 15th pole position in the last 20 races. He is currently the one-lap specialist, and this has played a key role in making him the youngest ever double world champion.
And Kuhn enjoyed watching that with me, and what a place to be just before qualifying. We'll be here for the whole first part of qualifying. What are we going to see in the garage, Kuhn, so close to the action?
Well, obviously we've not. We've got 6 minutes to go to the start of the session. The drivers will start to get ready. You see Jano behind me on this side and Heikki over there, and you see them go out for probably 2 runs. I mean, it's completely different this weekend because the whole of yesterday was a write-off of the weather. So it's a little bit of going into the unknown. The option tyres struggled a little bit this morning up and down the pit lane. So we'll see what happens in qualifying.
OK, well, Karun's already been out on the track this weekend. We'll talk about his experiences, the fact that we're off to India in a couple of weeks and enjoying qualifying from in the garage of a Formula One team, so well worth getting up for this morning. But right now, it is time for qualifying. Time to hand over to your commentators, Martin Brundle and David Coulthard, as once again, the teams go chasing pole here in South Korea.